With office dress codes softening and high fashion menswear designers seemingly ignoring the suit, what's a man who still has to wear one to work to do? Well, there are still some surprisingly good options out there, says WSJ's Jacob Gallagher, who's here to show us a few and guide us to wearing a suit today. Jacob, great to see you, and
see you as well.
Thank you for wearing a suit on a summer Friday, because you look very sharp.
Well, thank you. No, I had to dress it down a little bit. But
right.
Yeah.
Why does it seem that high fashion is abandoning the men's suit?
What we found is probably social media has been the biggest hit to it, I would say. Just insofar as what you're showing on the runway kind of has to jump out, and a suit is, by nature more staid. It's more conservative. That's not to say that there aren't designers that show suits, but even when they do, they oftentimes are more fashion forward, more, for lack of a better term,
Flashy.
Flashy, yeah, and they're not the thing that you're really going to want to wear in the boardroom or really even, in any situation outside of the runway, really, I would say almost.
And yet you found that there are a lot of good options out there.
There are.
If you know where to look. And some guys even told you they don't care whether there's suits on the runway. That's not where they would look anyway, right?
And I think that that's the case, is just like that's kind of where style is at right now. We know that it's not going to be shown on the runway, but when you go into most department stores, when you look online, and a lot of brands that I spoke with, they're still doing quite brisk business when it comes to suits. It's just that as the runway is getting more progressive, it's not like the suit's really going in that direction. A fashionable suit these days, it might be a little bit tweaked up, but it's still by and large is fairly conservative, and it really still works in that way that it always has.
So if a man comes to you and says, Jacob, where do I go? I just want a nice, smart suit that looks stylish enough, but it's not flashy. I don't want to spend a fortune. Where would you send them?
Well, it's not so much where I would send them insofar as like what I would tell them to look for.
Right.
I would kind of say, and this is really where most brands are leaning toward, every guy's going to have their navy, they're going to have their gray. If you want to mix it up a little bit more than that, get some slight patterning like what we have here.
Yeah, I
it's
see
just
that.
From afar, it's going to look like your classic kind of charcoal suit, or, over here we have like kind of, this is a little bit brighter in the blue, and so you get a little bit more color pop. But like something like this is, I'm wearing a solid navy. This is, I would say, still a navy with a very fine check to it.
So keep the pattern subtle, but keep the pattern.
Keep the pattern subtle, but keep the pattern. And kind of a good barometer is, can you see it from 60 feet away? Probably not really, but then you get up close and there's a little bit of intrigue. It'll make you look more fashionable and make you look like you thought about it a little bit more than the average guy, but it's not gonna be the kind of thing that someone's gonna say, wow, your suit's really loud.
Yeah.
That is not what you want.
Not what you want.
That's not that territory.
What about cut? What is the cut a guy should look for now?
So the cut now is, as you can probably tell, like I'm wearing my suit with the t-shirt. This obviously isn't how every guy's gonna wear their suit. It's not how most guys are going to wear their suit, but it is a good way to kind of check, because I can wear this with a tee. It sits a lot lower. It has, the shoulders a lot softer. It's a little bit looser in the body insofar as there's not so much construction. It's not so heavy. Think back to like what, Gordon Gekko was wearing in Wall Street. It was the big shoulder pads, and it was a very thick suit. It was very heavy. That's really not where we're at all right now. You don't want to be Don Johnson where you're wearing like the huge linebacker shoulder pads, and then as a result, it's just kind of sitting off you. It should sit on you more. You should kind of be more comfortable in it.
And you can also dress it up or dress it down.
Exactly. It provides a lot more versatility. So that was a big thing that a lot of people were pointing to when I spoke with especially stores, was they were saying, we're in a more casual environment for a guy that is in their 20s, 30s, 40s, that's kind of building this wardrobe. They're doing it in a capacity where right now, men can be a lot more dressed down in the world.
Yeah.
And so you want a suit that kind of can function where you can wear it to work, but then maybe you do wear it with the polo shirt out to dinner.
Right, it bridges that.
Yeah, or you throw it on with a tee for Labor Day weekend or something like that.
So let's talk about the more buttoned-down way we would dress this up. You do have to go to the boardroom. You got to wear that shirt and tie. What color shirt, what kind of shirt, and the tie, the all-important tie?
Yeah, so to begin with the shirt, because that's kind of an easier answer, is that right now what most designers were pointing toward was just a solid blue or a solid white. There for a while there was a lot of push to get complexity, where you've got a different stripe on the suit, you've got a different stripe on your shirt, you've got something going on with the tie. That kind of busier look we're not really seeing so much anymore. Men like things that are kind of simpler right now, more minimal, again, more versatile, functions in more environments. And so a lot of what designers pointed out in stores as well was that, go with solid white, go with solid blue, but also go with cotton. Go with something that's going to wear in a little bit better. You know, I know that there
doesn't look as stiff. It doesn't look as heavy.
There's this huge push to have, you know, the not-iron shirts and to have these things, but they end up making you look a little stiff. You should look more comfortable, and a cotton shirt is going to wear in better on you.
So does that translate then to the tie? The tie should look a little more comfortable as well?
Precisely. So the tie, what we're seeing is, you know, I use the term pepperoni pizza ties. You know, it was like in the 80s, you had these guys that were wearing these super bright, kind of really complicated ties. What we're seeing now is, again, the same way that we're seeing with suits. Go with solid colors, get a little bit of pattern in there, and then play with scale. Get a big check or get a small check, get a small paisley, get a bigger paisley. Play with that a little bit, but also what we're seeing, and this is a big thing that a lot of people pointed to, was a knit tie, something that has a little bit of texture, because that's a really unique place that you can get. You know, the texture of a suit is pretty similar. The texture of the suit is pretty similar to how it's always been. Same thing with shirts. Ties are really where you can get kind of something a little bit chunkier. It's just different. You get that definition.
I like that. So to recap, unstructured suits, stay with subtle patterns, blue and white shirts, and a knit tie.
Exactly.
You're good to go.
That to me is the perfect fit.
Jacob Gallagher, thank you so much for that.